Because a lot of people will tell me, oh, I want to be an actor, but there's so much rejection. And I'll often say, there's not rejection. You're making it sound personal. It's not personal.
Get ready, it's the new edition. Your favorite morning meditation. Hey, it's me, pardon my success. I'm a hot mess. Pardon my success. Pardon my success. Pardon my success. Pardon my UPMS. Albert Bramante, welcome to Pardon My Success.
Thank you so much for inviting me, May. I'm really happy to be here.
No, this is so exciting. Albert is a talent agent, writer, hypnotist extraordinaire, and I'm just so excited to chat all about the industry. My first question to you is, how did you kind of get started in entertainment?
I was always interested in creative arts. I was in drama club in high school, and then during my undergrad, I took some theater and acting electives, and I really enjoyed the process. I dabbled a little bit here and there in acting like 20-something years ago, and as much as I loved being around actors, acting wasn't for me, but I enjoyed being behind the scenes. That's where I was like, this is where I belong. Not in front of the camera, but behind. And so I started mentoring actors, kind of like being an advocate for them, a support system. I think my first foray was starting like a support group for actors. This is back around 2002, 2003-ish. I started helping with some casting here and there, short films, student films here and there. And the actors that were recommending were getting the roles. So I was like, maybe there's something here for this. 2004, I opened up my first company, first agency, and been doing it ever since. I also have a background in psychology, have a PhD, do the agency full-time and I teach part-time.
That's so cool. What was the impetus of starting the talent agency?
I just loved working with actors, just the energy.
What is your process when you scout talent or pitching talent?
There's two things. With scouting talent, my agency, we get at least 50 to 100 submissions a week from actors.
Oh, wow.
We're based in New York, so we get a lot of New York actors looking for representation. We go to a lot of showcases as well. Like right now in the springtime, it's a showcase season, so a lot of the BFA, MFA programs and conservatories, the graduates start putting on a showcase.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of talent that way. Referrals, our clients refer their acting colleagues and friends. We work with managers. They will sometimes refer talent to us. Day to day, as a job as an agent, my responsibility is scouring the breakdowns, a company called Breakdown Services, which has all of the film, TV, and theater bookings. We use casting networks for commercials, print jobs. Day-to-day process is scouring those breakdowns, finding the appropriate talent, and then submitting. And then if the opportunity is correct, I will pitch. I'll pick up the phone and pitch to casting.
How do you kind of advise young artists that are actually seeking representation?
The first thing is to get experience under your belt. Training is irreplaceable. Get involved in some, technique training, whether it's Meisner, Stanislavski, or at least just some sort of on-camera technique and scene study and improv. And get involved with all of that. And then start doing some student films, some short films. Even though they may not pay anything, at least you're getting the experience of being on set. And you're also getting stuff for real. If I'm going to be effective in any way, I need to see some experience and I need to have usable reels.
How many clips would you recommend be in the reel? How long would you say that should be?
I would say no more than 2 minutes per reel. Under 2 minutes is ideal, so like 60 to 90 seconds. I don't want to see too many short clips. I'd rather see 2, maybe 3 solid performance pieces rather than, like 5 seconds, 10 seconds here where we have no idea of what's going on or how to brand the actor. Self-tapes are the worst. If there's nothing, then maybe I'll take a look at it, as long as it's quality. Nowadays with phones, get together with some of your acting friends, write something, film something, and put it out there. I would say preferred reel would be important, like produced work.
It could even just be 2 strong produced works, put those together.
Yeah.
You have a reel. I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of what you're looking for in a good submission, what are some things that make you automatically go, nope, we're not taking this person?
When they start identifying I'm the next Denzel or I'm the next, Meryl Streep, what turns me off there is well, there's only one Denzel and there's only one Meryl. Who are you? Yeah. Or if they come up with sometimes really lofty goals, hi, I'm just out of school and I only want to be on Broadway. I'm like, whoa, okay. I'm looking to be only a lead in films. So unrealistic expectations, I would say no. Or if they have no footage. Sometimes I'll get a selfie and be like, hey, I'm ready to start acting. No. A selfie doesn't...
It's not cutting it. Professional headshots, I'm guessing. big yes.
You don't have to break the bank. There's some photographers I know that are reasonable and give you great shots. Expensive does not always mean better in some cases. They should be professional. And someone who does acting shots, because I can automatically tell when I'm looking at a glamour shot or a headshot.
How many would you say?
3 or 4 looks, depending on what you're going for. I work a lot in the New York market, so for New York actors, it's gritty, minimal to no makeup, because it's different than modeling. The headshot should always look like you. LA is more comedic based. Most of the single cam and multicam sitcoms are filmed out there. New York is primarily the procedural capital.
That is super fair. What would you say is like maybe your biggest hack for people since you've been working on like the backside of things?
Persistence, I would say, is number one. Knowing your type and knowing your brand, and then tailoring your headshots to that brand and tailoring your media to that brand. If you're, let's say, a tough, powerful person, then all your clips and your headshots need to be communicating tough and powerful.
What would you say is like the biggest difference that you see in the artists that book consistently and maybe those who aren't booking as many roles?
Persistence and mindset. The actors that are booking a lot are extremely proactive. They're networking with casting directors. They're submitting themselves every day, even when they have representation. They're taking advantage of every and all opportunities presented to them. And their mindset is they don't dwell too much on the actual audition. They go in, they look at it like, I'm performing for 2 minutes. I'm going to have fun for those 2 minutes. Versus being a nervous Nelly before every audition. I would say confidence is probably the number one thing.
Just casting networks for self-submissions or like
Actors Access, casting networks. It's hit or miss with Backstage. But that might be something to check out too.
Would you recommend that people pay for the premium subscriptions of those?
Yes. For Actors Access, you get unlimited submissions. Otherwise, you get to pay by submission. Usually it's around $70 a year. It's worth it. I know you'll be doing more than 35 submissions in a year. You'll save money, and one booking can actually pay all that back. With casting networks, if you're interested in doing commercials, then you should be investing in the package because you'll then have unlimited photos, unlimited videos that you can upload, and unlimited submissions. Sometimes the lower tier projects may not even appear on the agent or manager side of these sites because they want to deal with actors directly.
I didn't realize that they could even specify that it's actors only. So like it actually does help to be out there trying to get it for yourself. What advice would you give to maybe your younger self who is just starting out or maybe another young aspiring actor?
I would say definitely get in some classes regularly. Also develop a relationship with other actors because again, you know, I've gotten so many clients from the agency from other clients that were already there that said, I want to recommend my acting friend or colleague. Do some meetup groups, really just network and go to a lot of film festivals too in town, volunteer film festivals. The filmmakers there are looking for actors maybe for their future project. So that's a good way to get connected. Take advantage of every opportunity you can and be very proactive. This is a long haul career. This is not an overnight sensation. The unfortunate thing in my years of doing this is I've seen this as a high turnover rate. For example, I went to a showcase about 10 years ago. It was a BFA program and there were 16 students in the class and one of them I wound up signing for a couple of years. And then a few years after the showcase, we were having coffee. I said, do you keep in touch with your classmates? She goes, oh yeah. I said, well, how they're doing? 16 in the class, 14 of them were already no longer acting.
Wow.
After 2.5, 3 years.
Program.
Really have a 10 or 20 year plan if you want to do this full time. Because it's going to take a while, sometimes retraction, to happen. It's all about being persistent, keep training, keep evolving.
No, absolutely. I know that you have written a book. How was that process for you?
Yeah. When I started the agency, one of the things that was really kind of affecting me and bothering me was the amount of actors that were self-sabotaging, blowing off auditions, coming up with excuses. And yet these are the same people that were complaining and saying to me that they needed to find work. And I couldn't explain the disconnect. Why is this happening? So when I was going for my PhD, we had to write a thesis or dissertation. And in the planning stages, they advised us to pick a real world problem that affects us. So I chose, why are actors self-sabotaging? And they loved it, the university I went to. And so that's where I did my dissertation on. And then I received my PhD about 10 years ago. Thank you. And then ever since then, I was like, I really should turn this into a book. It took me a while and I called myself out. I was one of those people that were planning things and never got anything done. So 2023, I said to myself, you know what? There's no such thing as someday. Let me commit to writing 2 hours a day and
Wow.
see what happens. And I did that for about 2 months, and the manuscript was there. I did a couple runs of editing, went to hire 2 professional editors to be tough, incorporated the changes, and went to Amazon and KDP. I said, here you go, let's publish. But I got a cover
Wow.
design and all of that. It was an amazing process. But one of the sobering statistics I heard before writing my book was that only 1% of people who declare they want to write a book actually do it. The other 99% hold on to the dream of writing a book and never do it. I was easily becoming those 99%. I said, no, I want to be that 1%. So that's another thing I would tell young actors is like, when you have a dream, go for it. Accountability, I think, is the biggest thing, no matter what type of role you play. Accountability is the key. Another piece of advice I would say is find some accountability partners that will call you out and hold you to what you say you're going to do.
What were our findings? Why are actors self-sabotaging?
Fear. There's 2 types of fear. You have fear of failure, which are a lot of actors, and then you have fear of success. And then there's also self-doubt because you're getting told all these no's. You pour your heart and soul out in auditions. You're going to get more no's than you're going to get yeses, no matter how talented. That's part of the landscape. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a lot of these acting schools, I don't think prepared the students enough for the real world, the business side of things, being that persistence part. Fear of success and imposter syndrome sometimes comes in. Is this for me? Am I a good actor? That was the biggest thing. But self-doubt. Also, fear of change. That's leading to fear of success, is fear of change. Because when you're successful, let's say you land that series regular, you land that Broadway contract, or you land that lead role in a movie, your life is going to change. It can be very demanding. Relationships that you have might struggle and suffer. One thing I would also advise actors is watch the company you keep. Because if you're dealing with all these actors that are bitter, and you're hanging around with other bitter actors and artists, it's going to rub off on you. I challenge to hang out with some actors who are even more established in their careers, because that'll rub off on you. Sometimes the people you are with are security and maybe putting you down. I've dealt a lot of that with clients who tell me like the significant other is not supportive. Of course, I reframe that as it's not about you, it's about their own insecurity. But nonetheless, it will rub off. That'll hold you back.
Absolutely. And I know among your mentorship, one of your ways is hypnotism, which is incredibly cool. And I was wondering if you might be able to run us through a little process. How does that
Okay,
work?
well,
What does that
it's
look
very
like?
simple. I don't do the traditional sense of
Okay.
hypnosis. I'm not going to swing a watch and have people drop down. It's fun to watch, but that's not how it works. Very simple technique that you can all do. The next time you have to do a self-tape or an audition, before you do it, spend some time, close your eyes, and visualize yourself reading the script, your scene part, and everything's going well. Just keep doing that for every performance, for every audition. Imagine it beforehand. I often say, don't just visualize watching it. Visualize yourself sitting in a movie theater, watching that happen on screen. Through maybe guided meditation, I say, now step through that screen. Now you're in that. The interesting about the brain does not know the difference between fiction and reality. If you keep doing this over and over again. Now, hypnosis is not going to replace traditional training. I want to make that very clear to anybody. It cannot make you a better actor, per se. That's going to come through training and experience. However, it will get you out of your head and be the best you can be at that moment, which I can guarantee you will be a really good performance. I use a lot of waking hypnosis, which means like the words you use, the language we use. And I tell actors all the time, you should never refer to yourself as a starving artist or an aspiring actor, because when you say those words, you're creating that reality. So I often say you're a professional working actor. And you already should be almost saying, like, I work in film and TV. It sounds sometimes a little woo-woo, but I often say, like, pretend like it already happened. I did that even with my agency. I was like, oh, yeah, I book people in film and TV. I mean, yeah, I book people in student films. I didn't tell anybody that. But I kept working around saying I book in film and TV. When I started doing it consistently, 2 months later, I booked my first primetime top of show guest star on SVU. It really will happen if you actually, not just say it, but believe it. Looking at failures as feedback only. Because a lot of people will tell me, oh, I want to be an actor, but there's so much rejection. And I'll often say, there's not rejection. You're making it sound personal. It's not personal. There's only one role for hundreds of actors that are auditioning. That's it. So it's not personal. So I often say there's no such thing as rejection, only that your services are not needed today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good.
Maintain that framework that your services are not needed today. Every time you go do an audition or a self-tape and it's over, let it go. You walk out of that room, it's over.
That was the
You
performance.
Now you go in and you work on your next one. Now what's next?
Then it makes it more so like you're finding opportunities to play. And if you're
Yeah.
submitting yourself for things, then it's like you're finding small performance opportunities for yourself.
Yeah. You're finding performance opportunities. Like I
Yeah.
would even frame that because there's no such thing as small.
That's
No.
so true. There are no small parts, just small actors.
Whether it's a student film, or a short film with no budget, it's still a film, and you're still acting and playing a character. So you're still acting as a professional. All of you listening that are actors, you're professional working actors.
Yeah, you are. Own it. Everyone, get out there, put yourself out for things, persevere, and don't be afraid. The fear is holding us back. I say that as like the most anxious person on the planet.
Yeah. Well, and we all have it. That's the one thing that I would say. Let's also normalize it too. Fear
Yeah.
is common. Fear, if you really think about it, stands for false evidence appearing real.
I think you just exploded my brain with that one. Wow. All right. Let's all do a big reframe. Stop self-sabotaging.
Even if you flub an audition here and there, use that as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, that's
You know,
feedback.
it just requires practice. That's the one thing I will say. Like every audition you can do it. And just like the same as being a podcast host or guest, you just have to keep doing it.
And that's exactly like you were saying with your book. Preparing to do the thing is not doing the thing. The whole podcast started me filming on my phone in my car driving to work.
I was just having a conversation with another podcaster. Sometimes the best way just to start a podcast, just film. And you don't even have to release the episodes, that you're going to do right away. Practice interviewing and you'll get better. And I was hearing another podcast event, and they were saying it takes really at least 100 episodes for you to start getting the hang of podcasting. Just keep doing it. Because most people, especially podcasters, they give up after like maybe 10 or 20 episodes. And that's why you see like a lot of these podcasts.
They never make it to the second season.
Just after 20 episodes, it's like, I'm done because I don't see the traction.
1 or 2% of podcasts actually make it to 20 episodes. So in my mind, I was like, I just have to make it past 20. And sometimes I still get down about things when it's like hard to book guests or people aren't responding. I take things very personally. And so like, it's really hard to not feel like that's like a personal snub, but like, you just got to keep going.
That's the important thing, is just being persistent. Reach out in your Rolodex. Find 20 people that will, shoot the breeze.
I find that as I start recording, other people start showing up that are like, hey, I would love to do this. Or it's like a friend comes up that's like, hey, I actually found someone that I think would be great for this show. I now have entirely new backgrounds and experiences and insights that I never would have found otherwise.
And that comes with flexibility and freedom, almost improv in a sense, because you never know what can happen.
You are absolutely correct. You are amazing, Albert. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of
And
this.
thank you again for having me.
No, you are so wonderful. Everyone, go follow Albert, go read his book and manifest and do the thing. Because at the end of the day, that's the only way that you're going to do the thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Albert. Is there anything else you would like to share? Last thoughts, feelings?
Stay connected. Remember why you're doing this and celebrate all successes.
Yes, absolutely. You are the best. Thank you so much, Albert.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
I will see you next week. Are you PMSing?